Try once more.
So let me say good morning.
Good morning.
So allow me to recognize your excellencies and the honorable minister that are present, development partners that are present, the sponsors of this meeting and the organizing committee, distinguished ladies and gentlemen that are invited, and the media. It is an honor and a privilege to add a voice, this is a Zambian voice, to this critical conference on climate smart agriculture in Eastern and Southern Africa. As a way of getting started, I would like to mention to you that the Zambian government acknowledges that climate change is real, cross-cutting, and surely is likely to be with us for the foreseeable future, and it will be responsible to affect the food systems within the country. And this has been realized from the reality that we've experienced frequent droughts, late onset of rains, and shortened rainfall periods, and poorly distributed rainfall across the country. And I must hasten to say that the 2023-2024 agricultural season was about the worst that the country experienced. We had about 6 million people that were affected. Of the 116 districts, 82 were affected in terms of drought. And this significantly reduced the crop productivity from I'll give an example of maize, from around 2 metric tons per hectare, it dropped to 2.6 metric tons. And production also dropped from 4 million to about 1.6 metric tons. So that kind of hastened the commitment even towards issues around climate change. So what has the government of the Republic of Zambia done? Firstly, all major policy documents have been domesticated. And in those domestication, the issues of climate change are very critical, and they're clearly highlighted, and they are all speaking to each other. We have also domesticated the Malabo 2014 declaration, and we've also developed what we call National Agriculture Investment Plan, though in our country we call it Comprehensive Agriculture Transformation Support Program. So that is to acknowledge the issues of climate change, so they are well articulated and well domesticated in our policy documents. The second component has been resource mobilization, because when these documents were being developed, there was a private and the civil society involvement to develop these programs, to develop these policy documents, and because of that, there is commitment from the private sector, which is very key also in driving production and productivity or the development agenda within the agricultural sector. The second component, in terms of interventions, we've worked around early warning systems, strengthening early warning systems, so that once information is brought on board, it can inform policy planners in terms of pest and disease management and also in terms of marketing. We are also doing scaling up, and I'm very glad to have learned what scaling up is, the 3 dimensions of scaling up. So we are doing the scaling up, the scaling out, and the scaling deep of climate smart agriculture, though our focus has been mostly on the scaling out, but we'll pay attention now on the scaling deep. So we also have interventions around yield extension. We're leveraging on ICT. COVID taught us that we will not forever meet the way we are meeting. So we have to be innovative, move away from conventional extension service delivery to more innovative platforms of delivering extension messages. So we're leveraging on ICT to promote e-extension. Then we also have climate smart information, leveraging on Earth observation, and climate information in itself is not very useful to the farmers unless an appropriate agricultural advisory is crafted around the climate change. Then that becomes more useful and more necessary to our small-scale farmers. We have a great agenda to invest in mechanization, that's agriculture mechanization, along the entire value chain, from production, pest and disease management, weeding, post-harvest management, up to marketing, up to processing. So there is investment in agriculture mechanization, and also there's a strong recognition of investing in irrigation. Unfortunately, most of our small-scale farmers, they rely on irrigation, on rain-fed agriculture. And as a result, they're more vulnerable to the effects and shocks of climate change. So we feel irrigation can bridge those gaps. So those that have access to water bodies, and government also has been putting up huge irrigation infrastructure so that farmers can access irrigation. There's also provision of drought-tolerant varieties of most major crops. And these drought-tolerant crops or varieties are promoted based on the agroecological region of the country. So the country has been broken down into 3 or 4 agricultural regions, and each has a specific varieties that we promote in those particular regions. There is also provision of hybrid insurance amongst the small-scale farmers. In case all our climate-smart technologies, climate-smart interventions fail, that's a last line of defense. It's like a last antibiotic you are given if the condition is really severe. So insurance sets in when everything else fails. Then you fall on the strategy of insurance. So because of the droughts that have been experienced, there's a slight improvement in the uptake of insurance. And having said that, the list can go on and on. Allow me to thank you all and be appreciative for the voice that Zambia has added to this discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was Louis Chikopela representing Zambia. I know we have many more countries, but we'll have opportunity later on to have more interaction and more presentations from the countries. For now, because of time and because we will need to go for a break shortly, I would just like to recognize some of the countries that are in the room, and let's give them a big round of applause. I know we have the Kenyan delegation. Kenyans, are you here? Yes, let's give them a big clap. All right. If you took Kenya off the Africa map, I think Africa would be unrecognizable. We have Tanzania as well. Let's give Tanzania a big clap. They're right there. Thank you so much. I think we have Malawi as well. Where are the Malawians? There you are. Beautiful country there. Comoros. This is another one I want to add on my list. Yes. Yes, thank you so much. Merci. I think we already had from Ethiopia on stage. We also had from Djibouti on stage. And I think we've already had from Uganda as well as Somalia and Zambia. Did I miss out any country? One of the FS countries. Which one is this? South Sudan. Oh, please, big round of South Sudan. Welcome. I don't know how to say welcome in South Sudanese. Dinka. Okay. So I want to appreciate all those who've made statements. You're very welcome to hear all this commitment and the focus on climate smart agriculture. With that, I'm going to hand over to my colleague Helen, and we'll shortly move to tea break. Helen.
Thank you, Robert. At this time, we'd like to take our high-level official delegation photo. Please allow me to invite our minister and our ministerial representatives to the stage for the official photo. Ministerial representatives, you're welcome. that you remain there for the second photo. Please, from our welcome panel, please join our ministerial colleagues. Mr. Tim Robertson, representative of the Embassy of New Zealand, Professor Diamani, Dr. Dahar Elmi, Dr. Ibrahim Elmi, Dr. Oweke Mulam, as well as Madam Esterine Fatabang, Dr. Johannes Verke, and other representatives of AU institutions and development partners. Please join on the stage for this photo.
Across Africa, climate challenges are reshaping agriculture. But solutions are already emerging. At the Climate Smart Action Forum, we have curated space for learning, connection, and action. The marketplace moves beyond information sharing toward real collaboration. It's a space to solve problems, unlock opportunity, scale what works, what you can expect, proven tools, research-backed evidence, investment-ready opportunities, scalable innovations. Welcome to the Climate Smart Action Marketplace.
As you have seen from the video, we are now moving to open the CSA Marketplace. May I kindly ask all our Marketplace presenters to proceed to your stations at the Marketplace. The Marketplace is not simply an exhibition space, as you've heard. It's a core platform for learning, exchange, and partnership building. It is where innovation becomes visible and where conversations can move from ideas to collaboration. At this moment, I would like to invite His Excellency Honorable Bright Miruama and ministerial representatives to join us just outside the plenary hall for the official ribbon cutting. You're welcome. For all other participants, please remain in the hall briefly. As you will see on the screen, we have a wide range of institutions and initiatives represented. I encourage you to take note of those you may wish to engage with during the breaks and lunch, as well as later today during our reception at 5 p.m. Once the ribbon is cut, you are warmly invited to visit the Marketplace and enjoy the coffee break. Please be sure to return to the plenary hall at 11:45 so we can continue promptly with our next session. Thank you. You're all welcome to join the marketplace just to the right of this room. And please enjoy the break. We'll see you back here at 11:45. Thank you.
I tell Mzee because we wanted to do a the ministry. Open up so much. They help them connect. Then they go and report him to him. Yes, yes. So, okay, so this next session, yes, for the whole, do you want us to combine both the presentations and the session? Yeah, I think that would be the whole session is an hour. 90 minutes. Yeah. So
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed your experience at the marketplace. Before we begin the next session, we'd like to make an announcement. Someone may have left their phone at the marketplace. If it is your phone, please come to this table over here where you see Robert. We have that phone. Once again, welcome back. If you are missing your cell phone, please, you can find it at the table where you see Robert. You already have 2 missed calls from IFPRI. We noted that. Someone's trying to reach you. Okay. We have heard this morning strong political commitment throughout, commitments to resilience, transformation, and alignment. This session will shift us from commitment to implementation. We're going to focus on where climate-smart agriculture, and specifically FSCAP priorities, have actually moved from strategy documents into planning, budgeting, and coordinated action. Over the next 85 minutes or so, we'll move in 4 steps or 4 stages. First, we'll ground the conversation at the continental and program level. We'll be hearing from Madam Fotabang from Auda NEPAD and from Dr. Volker from FSCAP on how integration is being framed and advanced. Second, we'll shift to country experience. You will hear from 5 countries on one concrete reform, coordination mechanism, or budgeting shift that made integration real in their context. Third, we will deepen the discussion through a moderated exchange with our panelists, exploring what made reform possible, what resistance they may have encountered, and what institutional capacities proved most critical to them. Finally, we'll open the floor briefly for focused reflections, inviting your questions and comments on what you have heard. Lastly, we'll round out by inviting Madam Fotabang and Dr. Volke to provide their reflections on what they've heard during the session. With that, let us begin. I'd like to welcome our 2 presenters to the stage. To ground us at the continental level, Madam Estherine Fotabang, who is the Director of Agriculture, Food Security, and Environmental Sustainability at Auda NEPAD, will outline for us the CAADP Kampala implementation process, its implications for integrating CSA priorities, and much more, I'm sure. Madam Fotabang, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Helen. I think it's still good morning. Let me try this technology to see it works. Good. Good morning again. After the opening session that was quite inspiring, we moved to this session on advancing CSA through regional cooperation. I will stand on the protocol that was observed this morning, and just to say I recognize the minister from Uganda and all the other ministers that are here present. I recognize my good friend, Mr. Tim Robinson, the World Bank Regional Task Team Leader, and all the other representatives from our member states and institutions, including CADASA and IGAD, as well as our development partners that are here present, and of course, to all the distinguished participants. So it's really a pleasure to be here on this really important workshop. I don't think this could have been more timely, and to speak on how we advance climate smart agriculture through regional cooperation. The urgency to address climate vulnerability, food security, and structural weaknesses in our agri-food systems is clearly articulated in the KADAP Kampala strategy and action plan that runs from 2026 to 2035. And that was endorsed by our heads of states in Kampala in January, actually December 2025, and which is now fully under implementation. As you recall, it was endorsed, but the implementation was to come into effect from January 2026. So we are there now. And I'm glad that the minister from Uganda, Minister of Agriculture, is here, because that was a groundbreaking, extraordinary summit of our member states. The Kampala Declaration and Action Plan, as you all will recall, is built around 6 strategic objectives, namely sustainable intensification, agro-industrialization and trade, investment and financing for transformation, food and nutrition security, inclusive livelihoods, climate resilience, and strong agri-food system governance. The subject matter we are discussing today, climate smart agriculture, is not a parallel agenda. It is a delivery pathway for achieving at least 3 of these strategic objectives of Kampala simultaneously. And the 3 that I'm speaking to are the ones on productivity, resilience, and food security. So strategic objective 1, 5, and 3. This morning, I think is the Honorable Minister from Uganda that said the CSA story is an old story for the region, which is true. So the question before us today is not whether CSA is important. The question is, how do we systematically integrate CSA, or climate smart agriculture, into national and regional planning frameworks so that it moves from pilots to scale? And I think my dear brother, the director of CADASA, gave us a nice tutorial this morning on scaling, which we all really benefited from. So it's the crux of the question is, how do we move to scale? As I mentioned, 2026 ushered the implementation phase of Kampala. All of last year, we worked with all of you, the member states, civil society, farmers, a private sector, to first just sensitize and raise awareness on Kampala, but secondly, to look at the tools that will help to domesticate Kampala at the national and regional and continental level. To support that domestication process, the member states have now adopted the KADAP Kampala implementation guidelines that was developed last year with, as I mentioned, impact or inputs from all of you. This guideline provides the institutional vehicle for integrating thematic priorities, including climate smart agriculture, soil health, seed systems, and value chains into national and regional plans. The guidelines is structured around 4 interdependent core elements. The first pillar is on governance, leadership, and coordination. Climate-smart agriculture must be anchored in national planning systems, not confined to climate desk or project units. This means embedding CSA priorities within ministries of agriculture, finance, planning, and environment, and aligning them with the national agricultural investment plans and the regional agricultural investment plans. So this whole mainstreaming of CSA as an integral part of these vehicles for CAADP domestication is critical. The second component, core component of the guidelines, which is the framework, the vehicle to domesticate CAADP, is on analytics and diagnostic. And it means that integration begins with evidence. Climate risk profiling, value chain diagnosis, and expenditure review must explicitly assess climate vulnerability and climate-smart opportunities. Our CSA indicators should be built into monitoring frameworks from the onset. So the second component on the guidelines deals with all their different analytical work that will support member states in defining their national agricultural investment plans. The third component of the guidelines is on investment design and readiness. And this is the actual national agricultural investment plans, or whatever you want to call it, that member states will develop. And CSA must be reflected in investment pipelines. So if we say climate-smart agriculture is important, we must, in the design of the National Agricultural Investment Plan, ensure that they are there, or CSA is in the pipelines of critical programs that the countries have identified. And they will be receiving public budgets to blended finance instruments to support their implementation. And this include, and this is just some examples, climate-smart infrastructure programs, irrigation programs, seed system programs, and regenerative soil management programs. When we went to the marketplace, I did see from many of your stands some of these very interesting and important initiatives that you are rolling out. So these are critical programs that should be integrated in the national agricultural investment plans that member states and all the regional economic communities are developing. And the fourth element of the guidelines is to deal with mutual accountability, results, and learning. So countries should track CSA-related indicators within the broader CAADP results framework. Ensuring climate resilience is measured as part of agri-food transformation and not separately. So when member states and the regs will do their biennial report, which is a requirement under the AU Kampala framework, there should be clear indicators that should help them report on the work that they are doing on climate-smart agriculture. Through this cycle, CSA become embedded in planning, budgeting, implementation, and reporting systems. This guideline has just been rolled out. We are having a meeting with all member states, focal points on CAADP and food systems, as well as the regional economic communities in 2 weeks' time, I think from the 16th, in Cameroon, Yaoundé, to roll out the guidelines. So the focal points and member states will fully appreciate the guidelines and the different tools and templates that are part of the guidelines that needs to be utilized by our countries. So, at the country level, we've seen the guidelines and how CSA can be and should be mainstream within the 4 components of the guidelines. At country level, integration also requires deliberate alignment across 3 layers. And again, I'm so grateful to my brother from CADASA on the scaling up, because the first layer is on policy. We need to repurpose public policies and subsidies to incentivize climate-smart productive systems. We have to, when we look at the biennial review reports from member states and the scoring, we can see that we have made some progress, but we did not achieve what the Malabo Declaration expected member states and the continent to do as far as agricultural transformation was concerned. And one of the key inputs was, what kinds of policy reforms should member states undertake to be able to achieve the objective of Kampala? So we need to look at this in terms of repurposing policies. With REX and partners, including the World Bank, AUDA and NEPAD is supporting countries to review public expenditure to better align it with CAADP Kampala as well as CSA objective. The second layer has to do with value chains. CSA adoption accelerates where value chains function. I think that has been proven. As AUD and NEPAD, we are supporting innovative cluster commodity compacts, partnering between governments, farmers, agribusinesses, and financiers to embed climate-smart agricultural practices within commercially viable agricultural value chains. As the saying goes, where markets reward resilience and quality, CSA becomes the norm rather than an exception. The third layer at the institutional level will be the one on financing. As we all know, and I think we heard of some of this morning, I think Tim spoke about it, as well as the ambassador, development assistance alone cannot finance large-scale CSA transition, especially at this time when we have a challenging geopolitical environment. We must mobilize domestic resources, private capital, and innovative finance to scale climate-smart agricultural investment that are aligned with the national agricultural investment plans. The role of the REX and cross-border coordination is critical. Same importance should be given to what happens at the national level because they are mutually complementary. So the regional economic communities play a critical role in harmonizing standards, including in areas such as seed regulations, climate services, and trade facilitation. CSA integration must therefore also occur at regional level through alignment of the regional agricultural plans with CSA priorities, through cross-border climate information systems, through harmonized seeds and input regulations, and through regional research and innovation collaboration. Climate risk does not respect borders. I think we heard that this morning, again from the minister, and neither should our responses. A fifth component of critical importance when we look at planning, CSA mainstreaming in planning, is on research and innovation system. We must, I think, reimagine the delivery model that we have been pursuing over the years. Scaling CSA requires a responsive research and innovation ecosystem. Currently, many research systems remain heavily dependent on public funding and development assistance, often producing outputs that do not translate into scalable commercial solutions. This must evolve. AUD and NEPAD is working with our partners to support research and innovation hubs to develop sustainable and commercially viable financing models, stronger public-private partnerships, improve intellectual property frameworks, and market-oriented innovative pipelines. I think the ambassador, New Zealand ambassador this morning, as well as team, spoke about the recent study tour to New Zealand that was organized by the World Bank to expose member states and regional institutions, including mine, and I think my colleague Dr. Manyewo will speak a little bit more about this later, to the research ecosystem in New Zealand. And what it showed demonstrated that commercially viable, sound research financing models can reduce fiscal pressure on public budgets, attract and retain top talent, deliver market-relevant technologies, and generate enterprises and jobs. This is directly relevant for scaling CSA technologies and practices. So my last point will be therefore on the issue of scaling, moving from projects to systems. We all recognize that many CSA successes to date have been project-based and donor-supported. Under CAADP Kampala, member states have clearly indicated that this is an era of implementation and acceleration. And for that to happen, the following is required. As far as CSA is concerned, we must embed CSA into national development plans. We must integrate CSA indicators into the CAADP monitoring systems, and we must align public expenditure with resilience goals. We must build functional value chains and mobilize private and blended financing. And lastly, we must strengthen regional coordination. This is how CSA transition from pilot programs to systemic transformation. Distinguished colleagues, integrating CSA into, this is what I was asking earlier how to move to the last station. Let me just conclude to say integrating CSA into national and regional planning processes is not a technical exercise alone. It is a governance and investment decision. It is about ensuring that climate resilience becomes a core pillar of Africa's agri-food system transformation, and not just as an add-on. As we implement CAADP Kampala, we have a unique opportunity to institutionalize CSA within our national agricultural investment plans, our regional agricultural investment plans, our budget processes, our monitoring systems, and our research and innovation agendas. With continuous partnership and aligned efforts, we can move decisively from fragmentation to coherence and from pilot to scales. Let me use this opportunity to acknowledge the support from our development partners, the World Bank, the New Zealand government, and others who have consistently supported the African agenda, supporting our programs, including our work on domesticating CAADP Kampala and key thematic work streams such as CSA. Without the support and partnerships at all levels with member states, with the regional economic community and our partners, most of our program and our intentions would not be possible. So as I conclude, I think together we can build agri-food systems that are productive, resilient, inclusive, and sustainable. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Fodabong, for that foundation and also for underscoring the unique opportunity that we have here together. At this time, allow me to invite Dr. Johannes Volker, Managing Director and Partner at UNIC, to outline FSCAP, the lessons emerging thus far and the process going forward. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I think I'm the first speaker who can say good afternoon if I look at the watch. So when I listened to the opening session I think basically every speaker emphasized the importance of these food system climate action plans, starting with Tim Robertson from the World Bank, the New Zealand ambassador, the executive directors of IGAD, and Kadesa, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture from Uganda, and also the ministry representatives from the other beautiful countries. So I don't feel any pressure right now. But I will try in the next couple of minutes to brief you what these food system climate action plans are actually about. How do we prepare them? What are the key principles we want to adhere to? What is the status of preparation? And what are the next steps? So how do I switch to the next slide? Esterine, please instruct me. Is this one? Okay, great. Thank you.
But I don't know, it moves behind.
I'll find out. Okay, that's just allow me a brief background information. So the funding here for this exercise for preparing the food system climate action plans comes from the World Bank, but through the government of New Zealand. And we are very privileged and excited about that we have been contracted, the consulting firm Unique Land Use, to prepare food system climate action plans in 6 African countries. And you're seeing on the map here, you're seeing the countries we have started. So actually it's Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, the Comoros, Malawi, and Zambia. I hope this will not be the final list. I hope we can expand later on, but that's the start. So very briefly, we're a consulting firm working on sustainable agriculture, climate change, and land use based in Germany. And we are working globally, particularly in the Africa region. And we are collaborating on the preparation of the food system climate action plans with the International Food Policy Research Institute, IFPRI. Many of you probably know IFPRI. I don't know whether a representative from IFPRI is actually here today, but it's a research organization focusing on providing research solutions to end or to reduce poverty and hunger and malnutrition in developing countries. So what are these food system climate action plans? My most important take-home message for today is, although it says plans, it's not just another plan or strategy or document or what have you. We are challenged to identify very specific investment options and policy reform actions which lead to scaling CSA action in agri-food systems in African countries. That's the most important message from me for you today. And we are doing this in the context of the CAADP strategy and action plan as laid out by Mrs. Fotabong in the previous presentation. We're also doing this to engage stakeholders not only at the regional, but also at the country level. And it's a diagnostic tool, so we want to combine various methods, quantitative, qualitative message, to eventually arrive at this very specific investment options, which are then hopefully taken on not only by the World Bank, but also in particular by the government, or by the governments and other development partners and the private sector. So this is a list of key principles which are guiding us when we prepare these food system climate action plans. And if you look at those 8 altogether, I've spoken about the CAADP, the regional context already, so we want to support the domestication of the NAIPs, National Agriculture Investment Plans. The second one, we are here, it's a regional learning event. We want to learn from other countries, not only 6 countries we are working in already, but also from all the other countries about your work, how you are proceeding on transforming agricultural food systems and how you are scaling CSA. As I mentioned, it's a country-level process. We want to create a sense of ownership and buy-in at the country level, and we don't only want to engage the governments, which are of course very important, but also the private sector, the research organizations, the CSOs, NGOs, because we want to hear different voices and want to learn from all of you. We want to apply CSA principles, increasing productivity, sustainability, increasing resilience, and maybe, I know the focus we are working on in the countries is on increased productivity, resilience, food security, nutrition, etc. But maybe there's also a co-benefit to reduce greenhouse gas mitigation. We want to contribute to a just transition of food systems. The next point, action orientation, means what I said early on in my take-home message. We want to focus really on identifying very specific investment options, also to bridge the gaps between, it might exist in some cases not, but the gap between the NIPES and actual implementation. And we apply a mixed method approach, combining quantitative and qualitative approaches, as I've mentioned earlier. Now, this figure here is supposed to illustrate the preparation process of these food system climate action plans. Don't worry, I don't go into too many details here, but I think what's important to digest is that we are preparing this in 4 phases and in 8 modules. Each of the phases consists of different modules. We have finalized the first phase, which was about understanding the food system status and context in each of the 6 countries. So what are the current challenges? What are the opportunities? What are the policies? What are the strategies? What type of analytical work has been carried out already, because we don't want to reinvent anything. We want to build on what's already there, and I can tell you, and you know this much better than I do, there's already a lot out there. It's just a question of bringing this all together. The second module was focusing on stakeholder consultations, because we wanted to understand from all these various stakeholders I've mentioned earlier, what are their concerns, their priorities, their needs when we talk about food system transformation and scaling CSA. We have now entered into the second phase, which again includes different types of analysis like climate risk and vulnerability assessments across different prioritized agriculture value chains. And this phase 2, and I will get back to that on the next slide, will lead us to a long list of CSA investment categories. And this long list of CSA investment categories, we apply different methods to come up in the third phase with a short list. And for that short list, we want to understand, it might be 5 investment categories or whatever, what are the actual bottlenecks? So if you take, for example, an example might be drought-resistant seeds. So why have drought-resistant seeds not been taken off to extent or disseminated to the extent possible in some of the countries we're looking at? What are the bottlenecks? Are these policy aspects? Is the private sector not really involved to the extent it should? Is it the research capacity questions? And while we're doing this bottleneck analysis, this will then allow us to identify very specific investment options. How much finance do we need? What are the appropriate financing instruments which can be applied by the government, by the World Bank, by the development partners, etc. So again, at the end, very specific investment options will end up in the 4th phase. I would like to brief you a little bit what we have been doing already. I've mentioned earlier that we used the first 2 phases or 4 modules to come up with a long list of CSA investment categories. I won't go through them. You see them, some of the usual suspects. And then we use a combination of a modeling approach, which will be done by our colleagues from IFPRI, to understand, if we look at this long list, which of those listed there have the highest impact on the food system objectives in each of the 6 countries. It could be productivity increases, resilience, nutrition, growth, jobs, livelihoods, etc. And then we want to use that modeling approach combined with consultations with stakeholders like you. Okay, if we take the first 5 investment categories coming out of that modeling approach, what are the bottlenecks I've mentioned earlier? What investments are needed? What we also did as part of the first phase, what we call a food system institutional assessment, with the stakeholders. So we try to identify the strengths and weaknesses of institutional frameworks for addressing food system governance challenges. And this might help us to also inform policy reforms in the 6 countries, or to inform measures which aim at capacity building. Yeah? And we have grouped this assessment into 4 pillars. Again, I won't go through them one by one. Maybe that can be also part of the discussion later on, but it's basically organization and planning, public finance, coordination, and accountability. I just want to, for the sake of time, just highlight one important aspect which really struck me when I went to the different countries. The NIPEs are really very well articulated, very well written documents, well presented. They point at the right things from my perspective, but many stakeholders said, okay, now we have this very good investment plans, but how do we move from there to implementation? That is the question. Some of the NIPEs have been very specific about it, but I think here that's the most important entry point also for the FS CAP, for the Food System Climate Action Plan, to inform then implementation. What investments, what are really needed, on the ground to facilitate widespread adoption of the CSA investment categories I've mentioned earlier. Of course, and there are different challenges also with respect, when we talk about food systems, with respect to coordination. Between different ministries, because food systems usually go beyond ministries of agriculture. That's certainly a challenge. There are challenges between coordination, collaboration between the different levels within a country, national and local level. And there's also, and I know some of you are working on this, there are also the UN food system pathways. So if the NIPEs, which are looking on food systems, you have the UN food system pathways, both with investment options, both with government systems, etc. And I think it's very important that we harmonize them, that we don't also, what Mrs. Fotabong earlier said, we shouldn't create any parallel systems, but look at the eventual goal of food system transformation in a sustainable manner in the 6 countries. Just to highlight maybe 2 points here. And this brings me already to my last slide, very brief overview how we will proceed. So the World Bank has asked us to finalize the second phase by the end of March. Then we will move on. The ellipse is moving. Then we will move on in April to the 3rd phase, where we talk about this shortlisting of investment categories, specifying investments, and we have been asked very ambitiously, and we do what we can to end the whole preparation of the food system climate action plans by the end of June. Again, this is not supposed to be the end of the story, end of June. That might be the beginning, because we're doing everything within our capacity to come up with these specific investment, tailor-made investment options, which are hopefully then taken on by the World Bank, by the governments, and others. So I leave it here. I hope you got a little bit of better sense what these food system climate action plans are about, where we can fill a gap, what we can do, what the timeline is, what the approach is, and I look forward to fruitful discussions also with the country representatives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Volke, for that background and that framing of FS CAP. Certainly very appreciative of the detailed, intentional, and structured approach that FS CAP is taking with all of the countries participating. We now want to transition to that country experience, moving from framework and structures to the lived country experience. Ultimately, integration happens at the country level, in ministries, in budgeting cycles, in coordination meetings, and of course, in implementation systems. I would like to invite our country representatives to join us here on the stage. Please welcome Mr. Mohammed Hassan Abdullah from Somalia. Dr. Kefalgan Getahun from Ethiopia. Mr. Oscar Chita from Zambia. Ms. Mary Manji from Kenya, and Ms. Gertrude Kambawa from Malawi. You're welcome. Welcome and thank you all for being here. We're going to begin with what we're calling a rapid round. This is where we will invite each country representative to share one concrete action, reform, or coordination mechanism that made CSA integration real in their national planning or budgeting processes and why it worked. Now, we know this is going to be very difficult because each of them have a wealth of experience to share, but we're asking them kindly to please focus on one thing so we could understand at a very practical level, one thing that really helped with integration and why it worked. We'll ask that you keep your interventions to 4 minutes because then we have more questions for you. Okay, may we begin with Somalia, Mr. Mohammed Hassan Abdullah. You're welcome.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. In Somalia, reform become a political possible due to strong of national ownership, continental alignment, measurable progress under the CARIB. Minister of Agriculture is fully re-engaged AU progress, endorsing Kampala declarations and achieve 150% improvement CADIP penal review score, demonstrating credible commitment. Agriculture will position it as aligned economic rival under the National Transformation Plan with climate smart agriculture, prioritizing the resilience pathway, reforming where further enabling by empowering women, farmers aligning investment plan through furthering through NASIP, strengthening legal policy framework, integrating climate action under the National Adaptation Plan 2026-2030. This completion is a politically will policy coherence and the performance accountability created a momentum for sustainable reforms.
Thank you very much. Appreciate hearing about how the legal policy framework was instrumental in your context. Thank you. Let's go to Mr. Oscar Chita from Zambia. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Well, very difficult to wrap it in 4 minutes, but I'll try to single out one, perhaps what I would call a coordination process, or what is really helping Zambia to ensure that we successfully implement these CSAs in the country. I think it can be attributed to the strong intersectoral, interministerial coordination approach that we have put together both at technical and policy level that lay a foundation to mainstreaming the climate smart agriculture into national policies. You could have heard from my colleague that Zambia is implementing a comprehensive agriculture transformation support program, which we are calling CASIP. And CASIP has been designed to cure quite a number of things in the agriculture space, but key and related to the topic is promotion of climate smart agriculture, promotion of climate smart irrigation, promotion of climate smart mechanization. We are also talking about food systems transformation, early warning systems, and so forth and so on. So government is here playing or providing an enabling environment, and it has invited all stakeholders, the private sector, the developing partners, the NGOs and other stakeholders to come on board and play a part to ensure that the private sector also takes lead in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chita. And appreciating there the importance of the strong interministerial coordination, but also the engagement of other sectors in the process. Thank you. I'll ask you to pass the microphone down to Dr. Kefilin Getuhun from Ethiopia.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I will reflect on the situation with the Ethiopian Food System Transformation in Nutrition, which is designed to address the multifaceted challenges of Ethiopia's food system. In fact, the Ethiopian food system is a multifaceted, and of course, the coordination mechanism is multi-sectoral. As it has been mentioned earlier, a number of ministries, development partners, the private sector, and the ASOS NGOs are involved. It is from the government agencies, actually 16 ministries are involved in working together to advance the Ethiopian food system transformation. So ATI, where I am based at, is convening, it is a secretariat, which is bringing together the two conveners, Ministry of Health and Ministry of Agriculture. And of course, as a center of the Ethiopian food system transformation in nutrition, we have embraced, recently the Convergence Action Blueprint, whereby we aligned the climate actions of NADC mitigation adaptation with the food system interventions. So what we did was actually we have integrated at the very beginning during the preparation of the roadmap, more than 50% of the climate actions were already integrated with climate actions. And at latter stage, we have been able to integrate the climate actions, CSA, into the food system. So I would say at the moment, almost 100% of the climate actions are integrated into, into the Ethiopian food system pathways at intervention level at least. So what works well in this regard is actually there are three important factors that really can be raised in this regard for the achievement so far. The first is strong government commitment and buying, political buying. That is very important. And the second one is the alignment, strategic alignment of the national, policies with the development plans at national, regional, and continental level have been very importantly seen in this regard. And the third one is a robust partnership from development partners. So those things have moved the transformation process to leap very much higher. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Getuhun. And I'm hearing some already common threads coming out from our presenters as well as from other speakers on the importance of alignment and integration, and of course, very importantly mentioned, the importance of political buy-in. Thank you. Now, if you may pass the microphone back down this way to Ms. Mary Mangi from Kenya.
Good afternoon, everyone. All protocols observed. I think from Kenya, what I would want to say is that the country has done a number of policies, strategies, and frameworks, which are actually aligned with a number of other sectoral policies. And this has ensured that everybody is on board. They understand what climate smart agriculture is all about. And then, as you are aware, in Kenya, we have devolved counties. So the policies at the national level and the strategies and the frameworks are also aligned with what the county governments are doing, ensuring that everybody is on board and they understand what we need to do in matters of climate smart agriculture. I also want to say that we also have, we use multi-stakeholder platforms. We engage not only the public sector, but also the public sector, the academia, and other stakeholders, so that we can come together and be able to work together. So this has really worked because sensitization and the capacity building has been done across. So every sector is aware of what needs to be done in each and every sector. And we try as much as possible to follow, especially the National Climate Change Response Strategy that was done, from which the National Climate Change Action Plan, which was to actualize the strategy, was done, and it stipulates what each and every sector is supposed to do. I also want to add that maybe we also have the goodwill from the government to implement these climate smart agriculture issues. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Mangi. And once again, we're hearing the importance of multi-sectoral coordination and collaboration, and of course, once again, the goodwill of the government. Okay, last and certainly not least, please pass the microphone to Ms. Kambawa from Malawi.
Thank you very much. Probably to share our experience from Malawi, not very different from what colleagues have already shared, especially in implementing climate smart agriculture, which is also already embedded in our policies and frameworks which have been aligned to the continental frameworks. What we have at the moment is the National Agriculture Policy, which came out in 2024. And in this process where we are coming up with an action plan on climate smart agriculture, the process has also been to look at the coordination amongst the institutions that are implementing climate smart agriculture in Malawi. So we've had meetings with various stakeholders to come together to identify areas which we need to concentrate upon. As a country, we've been implementing climate smart agriculture already, so we are building upon the lessons that we've had in country. But through this process, we came together and we identified the bottlenecks that are there. What we have noted is our engagement across the stakeholders hasn't been strong, the collaboration. We have the policies in place, but the coordination has been weak. But in this process, we've been able to identify elements that should help us to move forward. The first one is to look at productivity improvement and also looking at an approach through the value chain. We have identified a number of value chains that we can work on. But also in the policies that we have, resilience is key, and this speaks to the climate smart agriculture interventions that we want to promote. So what we have at the moment, looking at the food systems transformation, and through this process of the FS CAP, we've come up with a process to identify the investments that we'll be implementing. Like it has been indicated in the presentation by Unique, we also have that long list in Malawi, but we've narrowed down to a few, and they are being clustered around 4 pillars, which are to strengthen the food supply systems, enrich the environmental supply systems, improve the health systems, but also to enhance the socio-economic and political systems. So generally, there's been good collaboration amongst those stakeholders because we came together to look at what has been happening. And this is what I can share. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kambawa, and appreciate hearing the challenges too of moving from policy to implementation and some steps that you're already taking. Okay, we are not letting them off the hook just yet. We've got some questions for this distinguished panel. I'd like to deepen what we've heard by exploring a few cross-cutting questions. So here is my first question, and feel free to signal to me if you'd like me to invite you to respond. The first question, what technical or institutional capacity proved most critical in what you've achieved so far? Data systems, budgeting units, interministerial committees, what technical or institutional capacity proved most critical thus far for you?
Thank you. In Somalia, our ability to implement the CARIP is constrained by limiting technical and institutional capacity. We continue to face a weak coordination systems, shortage of skilled personnel, and inadequate agricultural data monitoring structure, all of which it makes difficult for us to develop and execute a strong national agricultural investment plan or report on a CARIP indicators We we also lack of effective multi-stakeholder platform and the capacity to monopolize resource or implement bankable projects while limiting engagement from the private sector and farm organization further. Somalia is strengthening climate smart response plan and budgeting systems. Our finance authorities have begun reforming national budget progress to track adoption spending supported by GCF financing NAP Readiness Project, which is help the ministry's finance to develop climate adaptation budget targeting system for monitoring current and future climate expenditure. The National Adaptation Plan framework also directs us another sector ministries to integrate climate adaptation into our budget strategies, programs at the subnational levels. NAB initiatives, it helping federal member states to adapt climate aware planning through targeting workshops and guiding so that the state level budgets also reflect adoption priorities. 3, Somalia 2024 drafting budget strategy, for example, in, climate change interventions such as clean energy and drought mitigations. Funding priorities also budgeting $3 million annually for agricultural infrastructure, water point irrigations, even if these are not yet targeting especially climate smart, as one observer notes. Progress requiring putting climate actions from the center in a budgeting and ensuring first allocations to reflect CAA priorities in other words, Somali reforms aim to make CAA spending visible in a budget through full targeting system still under development. The first, the Somali National Adoption Plan 2026-2030 is an example of explicitly calls mobilizing resource for priority actions and guiding the mainstreaming adoption projects into the sector program and intend to absorb CSA action costs into a regular planning. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for sharing the Somali experience. Yes, please. Let's hear about the Kenya experience.
I think what I would want to say is that what has made the reforms possible for Kenya, I think that interaction from the national government to the county government, working together, having policies that work together. On the side of implementation, we have projects that are well designed, coordinated from the national level, and these projects, the implementation is actually at the county level. So we have the buy-in from the county governments, and some of the interventions that have really worked is like the issue of strengthening community institutions, whereby we are building the capacity of community institutions, starting with the small groups, what we call the CAGs, farmer producer organizations. We have what we call corporations, and we are training them on teams. What is teams stands for technologies and innovation management practices. And these farmers, they are able to run and to adapt to those technologies. We are also using the agripreneur model, which is an innovation that it's on pilot. We are trying to upscale that. And in this agripreneur model, we want to engage the youth so that the youth can be able to come in and get which node in the agricultural process where they can be able to come in and do agripreneurship and work with our farmers. So it's something that we are trying to upscale, and we are hoping that it's really going to work and create jobs for our youth, for our young people. The other issue is on the issue of we realized that our communities are not able to access capital and credit because when you go to the main financial institutions, they will ask for collateral, they will ask for, title deeds and other tools so that you can borrow. And we realized most of our small-scale farmers in Kenya, and especially the women who are involved in agriculture, they do not have collateral. So what we are doing is that we are putting these farmers or beneficiaries in cooperatives, which we are calling the word-based circles, whereby we are encouraging these beneficiaries to save so that they can be able to borrow. And this one will ensure that we have sustainable agriculture. So the project gives some retro funding, then the farmers, they save, and then they are able to borrow. So that even after the project, they'll be able to continue to adopt to the technologies and the teams. And then, of course, we are also looking at the issue of the market linkages. One of our biggest challenge has been being able to sell. And our objective is to ensure that every farmer participates in the market in terms of selling their produce and in terms of value addition. So we want to ensure that our farmers come together. They are able to do the aggregation. They are able to sell as a cooperative so that they can fetch higher profits. And then they also be able to control the prices that they get, meaning that you have improved livelihoods for our farmers, and they'll be able to put more money in their pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manji. So far, we've heard about capacity to budget, secure financing at national, subnational levels. We've heard about capacity to adapt technologies all throughout. We've heard about the importance of credit accessibility as well as market accessibility and control. Other technical or institutional capacities that countries have found most critical.
Okay, in our case, in the Ethiopian food system transformation and nutrition, there are a number of factors that enabled, of course, critical institutional capacities that help with integration of climate smart. It includes both technical and institutional coordination tools, which maybe involves like evidence-based planning tools. In our case, for instance, we have developed climate smart agriculture investment plan that really served as a foundation framework. And secondly, strengthening the extension system as a delivery mechanism. The huge capacity in this regard, Ethiopia has used this as a vehicle to reach out a number of farmers to integrate and disseminate climate information to the farmers. That is what we have achieved, of course. Critical institutional capacity was built by, like for instance, the National Agricultural Extension System roadmap was developed to modernize extension services, explicitly integrating CSA principles. And of course, training has been given, particularly targeting, agricultural experts and development agents, which are, of course, the frontline workers in enriching climate information, with climate information for the farmers so that they will practice that integration in their own lands. That is the mechanism that we have followed in transforming the Ethiopian food system as being climate resilient. And maybe the other one is a resource mobilization. In our case, the Ethiopian food system transformation, we have been able to mobilize, huge amount of the resources required for the implementation from our government treasury. Like more than 53% of this implementation was from government treasury. So that is showing or indicating how much government is really, really committed towards implementing this climate resilience food system transformation. So these were the ones that we can share, from our perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can just add a voice from Zambia. Well, Zambia is also, it's the continued research and evidence generation by various stakeholders including government wings, academia, private sector, and consistently demonstrated the need to develop and adopt climate-smart agriculture technologies as a way to build an agriculture resilience to climate change. Zambia is also doing a number of interventions to help in this space. Number one is capacity building. We are training our farmers. You may be interested to know that we have about, the farmer register is almost about 4.5 million, out of which we've got small-scale farmers about 4 million. So Zambia has embarked on training, a robust training across the country in many various climate-smart agriculture or farming practices, and also post-harvest management. We are also looking into market linkages because we believe that production without linking these farmers to the much needed markets, also this production may be in future. We are also looking at how do these farmers access funds. So we have come up with a fund which we are calling Sustainable Agriculture Financing Facility, which is offering affordable loans to farmers so that farmers may be able to access these loans and be able to go into production with ease. And this really is proving to help and alleviate the farmers' burdens in Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chita. I imagine for many of us, it makes your heart sing to hear access to financing for farmers. Thank you for mentioning that. I'd like to move us to another question. I'll ask each of you, and this is a surprise question, I didn't warn you about this one in advance. What was the most important achievement that you feel your country has had thus far in this process? And we'll ask each of you just briefly to answer that question. Would you like to start?
Yes, so for us, the most important achievement that we have seen in this process is to have stakeholders come together. We already have a platform that meets regularly, like we call it a joint sector review, where we come together just to look at what is the sector is doing. But in terms of this process where we're coming up with an action plan on climate smart agriculture, we've had an open discussion with our stakeholders where, like I indicated before, we come up with the areas that we think we should concentrate on to move forward so that they'll become our investment platforms. But I wanted to share also from our experience implementing climate smart agriculture that we've had models that we have developed, like innovations, because we have noted that the major problem in our country is land degradation. And to address this problem, we have an approach on a catchment basis where we bring participants, like our farmers, together to implement these climate smart agriculture interventions. So the benefits that we have seen is the rehabilitation of those areas. And that has translated into increased production, especially when you consider that you are conserving water from a landscape approach. But we've also innovated in terms of incentivizing climate smart agriculture interventions in the way of making sure that the farmers continue to implement these interventions for the long term. Because what we have noted is in the short term, their livelihood needs have to be met. So we've introduced a fund that they're able to access into a form of a village savings and loans, which they can go to. Because we noted that because these interventions take a long time to show their benefits, it encourages them to undertake unsustainable activities. For example, they'll do deforestation, they'll do charcoal. And that's what we don't want to see happening because that's what we want to preserve. So with the approach from a catchment perspective, we've noted that if we bring in this fund, it helps them to access the financing to meet their short-term livelihood interventions. So for us, those are building up to what we are going to be seeing when we come up with our action plan for the country, where we are going to build upon these lessons to ensure that they help us. Of course, like I've indicated that we've looked at the value chains, but also marketing, we believe, because everything will land on the farmers that will be implementing, these are the tenets that will form the basis where at the higher level then we should be able to see the improvements in production, which then goes to the markets, but also the value chains that will help us to transform our agriculture sector. But that's what I think I can share for now, that we have seen that is most important, the collaboration among stakeholders, having regular meetings on a platform.
Thank you, please.
I think for Kenya, we know most of the planning, even the action plans we are talking about. The issue of different sectors working together has always been a challenge. And what I want to say is that what I've seen working very well is when we talk about the capacity building of the community institutions, and especially on the technologies and the innovation management practices, we've always had it difficult getting these innovations and management practices from the research stations to the farmers. Right now, I see a connection, a working together between the research stations and the extension, that's the ministry. So we are able to get those innovation and management practices from the research stations down all the way to the farmers on the ground. So I think that one has really been working together, and we are able to see the farmers implementing. The other thing is that our farmers have not really been able to understand that they need to do soil analysis, to understand the nutrition that the soil requires so that they can increase production. Right now, we are seeing, we are already doing soil analysis from regions, and we expect that from the regions, the farmers will be able to understand these are the requirements of the soil in my area so that they are able to use the correct fertilizers for the specified value chains. So again, I see this one again is going to assist us in terms of giving the soil the nutrition it requires for increased productivity. And also remembering that there is a lot of flood degradation, soil degradation due to sometimes the flooding. So we expect to be seeing a lot of high production because farmers will be able to treat their soils right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And when I talking about the importance of climate smart agriculture, and number one, strengthen resilience to the climate change. Climate smart agriculture plays critical roles, helping countries like Somalia adapting climate vulnerability and climate change, and it encourages farmers' resilience to the shocks such as droughts, flood, and rainfall, while ensuring sustainable food systems. Drought mitigation and preparedness, effective water management, and proper use of technology and limited resource, improving agricultural production and food security. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think for Zambia, the number one thing is making agriculture attractive to many, particularly among the youth. I think we have seen a number of youth coming on board, all because of these things that we are talking about, coming up with plans that are workable, giving them a future, giving them hope that there are good things that can come out from agriculture. Now, that is number one. Number two is the unity that my colleagues have alluded to. This has brought about a lot of unity, putting a number of stakeholders in one house, under one house, to give them one agenda, push those ideas, and come up with solutions that are much needed for all the farmers that in Zambia. And also the continuous learning that is going across, because we are learning a lot. Every day, farmers are coming on board. Farmers are interested to know what they would like to achieve from these farmers, what they can take away from, and also to learn that farming can also sustain their livelihoods and grow their household income. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kirahun?
Okay. In our case, Ethiopia, over the last 5 years, Ethiopia has been able to achieve great progress with regard to, implementing the coordination, good coordination of, its food system, so that the food system, nutrition and food security activities are grounded very well in this country. So a number of activities. In fact, previously, those siloed thinking were very importantly impeding the transformation, but there are still problems, but this problem should be, they are under evolutionary process. There is